selection tools. Oh shit. Hey everyone, and welcome to part 5 of the techniques video series. In this one, I basically just go over a few finishing touches that you might put on a piece. Now I know in general, finishing touches are relative to whatever you're doing, but I just thought it'd be cool to show a couple of quick tricks in doing bloom and doing rim lights, and I also explain the add layer setting a little bit in this one, and then I also go over, what else do I go over? I also go over a line blur technique that just sort of softens and adds some extra dimension to a piece. So this is the last one in the series for now, and as more questions come in, and I'm sure I missed some stuff in these videos that people have wanted to see, but as more questions and everything come in, I'll do more of these down the line. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching. One of the main reasons why we create this main flat, which I just reselected, is so that when we're going in and doing something like the hair, because the hair is something that goes edge to edge, we can, let's make him like a bluish, darkish, gray, blackish sort of hair. There we go. We can go like this, and we can be a little bit looser with it, and we don't have to worry about staying in, because the most tedious thing of doing flats is how precise you have to be, especially compared to the painting process. The painting process certainly has precision moments, but they're a little bit less tedious, and they're more about like nailing like a cool look and it being fun. So the flat process for a lot of people isn't very fun. So let's actually just fudge in some hair down here too. So that is part of the reason why you would do this master flat. What's another reason why you might want to do the master flat? Well, I'm glad you asked. What you can also do is you can do things like a bloom around the entire character very easily this way. So I'm just gonna make this really messy just so he doesn't have one eyebrow and looks really weird. So how would you do the bloom? Really easy. You select your main solid, and then you hold down on select again to bring up your selection tools. Select your inverse. And in this case, the background's white, so this is really easy. We just fill it white. Let's sample that white and fill it. So for the most part, that didn't really change any of the image. However, we can, while we're still on that layer, we can go to our Gaussian blur and crank it up. See how the white is now blurring and it's crowding the form of the character? Now, just so that you aren't messy, because like for instance now, if you're down here, and let's say you decide you want to add some other thing, it obviously gets obscured, right? So what we do is we just reselect our main solid, and then we select the inverse again, and then we just delete that from that bloom layer. Clear. So what that did was it just deleted all that extraneous stuff that was on the outside. So if I were to just fill this in red so that you can see it, we basically have that now. It's just straight up the silhouette of the character with an interior glow. Now, if you were in Photoshop, you would do this very differently. Well, not necessarily very differently, but there are easier ways to do it. So for instance, you could just duplicate that layer and do a layer effect on it that looks like this, or you could do a number of things. This though, just for the record, is just a quick way to do it. That doesn't mean that it's good or that it's bad. It's just there's one purpose for this, and it's to do this type of an all-encompassing glow. Another thing to show real quick, again, keep in mind too, all the shadows on this aren't done. I stopped after we did that initial face stuff. For instance, there's other things too that go along with that type of a glow when it's that bright, and this is another reason to have your solid. You select your solid. Let's not go over the lines, let's just go over the shadows. Let's grab that white again. And we're gonna set this layer to add. So add makes it so that something that is, that your color makes things brighter. It also makes it more saturated, it makes the center of what you're painting much hotter, much whiter, and then as things fall off, they're very, very saturated as they fall off. Again, not a very technical explanation, but that is the explanation that I have for you. So let's go back to our soft brush, and if we were to paint now using this, let's just paint crazy so you can see it. That's what that looks like. You can see it's very saturated on the edges. So if we go broader, you can really see it. See, it's white hot in the center, and it falls off around the edges. If you go to your you go to your settings and you go to the layer opacity and you lower this, you can watch as I slowly lower this, the intensity shrinking. See? And it becomes where you can actually see those paint strokes a lot more specifically. So let's go all the way down to almost where you can't see it. So you can see there, that's what it's creating right there. There's the brush stroke, hotter towards the inside with a saturated fall off. So we crank this all the way back up, and it's just like the sun is smacking him in the face. It's reflecting right off of a car windshield. So, whoops, let's deselect and clear. So that makes it really great for doing rim lights, especially bright ass rim lights in a scene like this. So if I go in here using this brush and I just sort of start applying this, painting the light that's bouncing from something onto him, a very generic white light, by the way. I'm getting a little hot in spots. Try to follow his form on that side as best as possible. Let's just, this is fake, but like just do this anyways to make the eye pop out a little bit. And then I'll go in here and knock this back a touch. This isn't under here right now. And then make sure that nostril's not catching any of the light right now, so let's not let it. And then I know we don't have a shadow up here right now, but it just feels weird without doing at least a little bit of that. So there we go. So what we have now is a very bright, hot rim light. If we were to lower the opacity on this, that would feel a little better. That feels a little bit more like how it should be. And so now there's lots of different methods for doing ultimately what's happened here, but what you get now is you get your core shadow. So you get something where you've got some sort of a generic light source that's coming from here. It's just this broad fill light. And then you've got a rim light coming from somewhere else, hitting him here. And so then your core shadow, for instance, is right here, right there. You can see it. And that turns form on the figure a lot. So somebody asked me the other day on YouTube if I always put a rim light into everything. The answer to that is not always, but a lot of the time. This is a generic way to just sort of do a rim light from a white background. But then if this guy were, say, let's just do this for fun. Let's say he was wearing a bright red scarf that was like right here. Then what you might see me do is put like a little bit of bounce off of the character from here. And if this background were green, I might put some bounce there for green. And basically it's a different lighting setup where I'm trying to represent different bouncing of various lights and different reflectivity of different surfaces. It's not always the most successful thing, but you always try to do your best and try to represent it as best as possible. A couple more last minute tricks here on this illustration or this test image. It would probably be better. Let's flip the bloom back on. Let's lower the opacity on that bloom because it's really intense right now. And then one other quick trick is duplicate the glints. Here they are. And then you can, whoops, not layer opacity. Then you can blur those glints a little bit too, to give them just a little bit, because he's obviously in a bright white room, just staring at you. The last thing I'll show you on this one, because we've already got the lines here and it's going to be pretty easy to do,
duplicate your lines. They got really dark right there. And then blur those. This is a pretty good way to soften an image. You can see right there the line. So we've created this soft blur on the outside, but it's also on the inside. Personally, a lot of the time, depending on the illustration, what I'm trying to do, I'll actually clear the blur that happened on the outside. Just to keep it all contained, and that way he's not casting a shadow. Also, I'll lower some of the opacity on these lines now that they've gotten really duplicated upon each other. There we go. So that's just another way. These are really all just different things to get different looks and different tricks that people may or may not know about.
And now that you have seen the entire video as it plays out in basically real time, this is what it looks like when Procreate spits the video out at the end. So you can sort of see what happens in real time and then what you get when it exports. This is slightly slowed down just so that you can see it a little bit. But anyways, thanks to everybody for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this 5-part series, and please consider subscribing and liking. And if you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.